Hey guys, it's Eli. So today we're talking about how to add TypeScript to the project that we set up in the last video. So this is going to be a real quick kind of primer what TypeScript is, what it gives you out of the box, and how it can help your projects as you get started with React. I really recommend using TypeScript when you're developing React. It just helps you a lot, saves you from yourself in a lot of cases, and just can help a ton in general when you're getting things set up. So to start off, we've got our same project that we've had before. So this project right over here, all set up like we would expect. And then we're going to come back over to our terminal, and we're actually going to cancel the development server that we've got going. So I'll cancel that, and then I'm going to say, actually going to come over to this TypeScript page. This is a very handy guide. I'm going to grab their handy install command. We'll pop back over here, add that command to our terminal window, and go ahead and run it, which should add the TypeScript package. So yeah, we can see it's changed one package. So the next thing we need to do is we need to actually go ahead and create a TypeScript file. And so in order to do that, I'm going to do a couple things. One of the big powers of React is that it has the ability to componentize different things. So I'm going to add a component for us to play with and add some behavior to, and also to explore what TypeScript can do for us. So in order to show you that, I'm going to come up here, click New Folder, Components. Okay, so I've got components, and then I'm going to right click again, click New Folder. And then right here, I'm going to type in click counter, because that's what we're going to do with our little basic component. And then right click one last time, click new file, and I'm going to say index.tsx instead of JS. So instead of having a JavaScript file as our export type, we're going to have a TSX for TypeScript file. So here I'm just going to set up a really basic React component. Okay, so now that we've got this new file open, I'm going to go ahead and just create a really basic React component. So I'm going to import React from React. It's kind of our most basic. And then I'm also, just because I'm probably going to end up using these, I'm going to at least import use state for this one, I think, from React as well. So the next thing that we're going to do here is the first of our TypeScript changes. So in order to set up a TypeScript type, which we're going to use for the interface for any props we could give this component, we're going to set up a type here at the top of the file. So I'm going to say type, click, counter, props, equal to an empty object. So we'll set up some types later on, but just for now, we're going to start with that. And then I'm going to say const, click, counter. And then here, this is another TypeScript thing. So I'm going to declare this as a React function component with its prop types attached to it. So I say click counter, and then I say colon, which is how we denote a TypeScript declaration in general in TypeScript. So we're going to use that colon for our most basic operator for this. So I've got the colon there, and then I say react.fc as a shorthand for functional component, and then I'm going to say click counter props. So this is equal to our functional component callback. And so in here, if I had any props, I could put those inside a square bracket and then call the specific props that come in with that object. But in our case here, I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that blank for now. We'll go back and add some in a little bit. So create the body of my method, and for now, I'm just going to return a div with click counter inside it. Okay, so a couple new things here. We have the prop and new type declaration right here. We also have a type declaration. So this is creating a new type. This is declaring with an existing type. And then this is declaring what the prop types of this existing type are. So essentially the child props of that. I've got a really basic component again, right? So to add that to my main screen, I'm going to add that down in here below my button. And so if I go here, I can say click counter, and then slash, just like it's a custom HTML component. So click counter right there. But it is going to eventually throw, if I go to start my development server, it's going to throw an error on this because I haven't actually imported my click counter from anywhere. So we'll go up to the top here, and I'm going to say import, and we'll say click counter, same as our component as we tried to use it down below. And then from /, that denotes our home directory. And then I'm going to say component, and VS Code gives me this handy little seeker through that, and then I'm going to say index .tsx because I want it to know that it's a TypeScript file. Cool. So right now it's thrown an error because it's grumpy. And the reason for that is if we come back over here, it doesn't know what inside this file is the click counter. So if I come back up here, I'm going to now give it an export default click counter. So when I do that, suddenly I can now see the text from my component. So congrats, we're now rendering a component with text on screen. So the reason we have to give it this export default is otherwise it doesn't know what to export out of that file, and so it doesn't know what to render on screen when we're going to render it, because we can return multiple components or types. We could even say like export type, which makes this an exportable member. Okay, so we're going to jump back over to our component now, and we're going to talk a little bit about what TypeScript can do for us. So we've got this declaration up top with the counter props as well, and I want to add some dynamic behavior to this click counter so it actually does what it sounds like it's going to do. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a dynamic kind of prop for just a message to pass in above the click counter. So to do that, I'm just going to declare message as a prop, and then I just give it a type inside here, so a string for our prop type here. And so then I've got this click counter inside my div, but really that's not great form, so I'm going to actually pop all this inside of some parentheses, and then I'll move my div down, add in an h, let's call it a, we're a subcomponent, so I'm going to call this an h4 for a click counter. And then we'll have an h5. Here I'm going to add some 2 curly brackets, and that's going to denote that we're going to use some JSX. And so then I can just say message because it's coming in up here. Except, oh, it doesn't seem to know where it is, and that's because we have it popping in as a prop, but we aren't feeding it into the method itself. So here I'm going to say that, and then say message. Cool. So now I've got that message. That's being passed in as a prop. Now I can see how my component's going to render on screen. So I don't see anything coming in from message because there isn't anything being fed to it for message. So it's coming back as an empty string right here. But if we jump back over to our app.js, we will go ahead and see that we can come down to click counter. And then if I say message, TypeScript should know that that's coming. And then I can say, this is my message to all the new developers. When we reload our page here, we'll see this is my message to all the new developers. So that is very handy because then that allows for some dynamic behavior where we can pass different values into a pre-formatted component for rendering, which is really helpful as well. But we're not just going to be doing rendering with this component, we're also going to add some dynamic behavior. So coming back to here, I'm going to say const, and I'm going to say click count and set click count. We're going to create a state object with this. I'm going to say use state, and then I'm going to add something that we didn't have last time. So I'm going to say number here, and I'm going to give it a starting value of 0. So this is just our type for that piece of state, which is really helpful. So then if we ever try to pass something that isn't that type into the state down the road, especially in larger components, it can be a very helpful tool. So I pretty much always type my state, my pieces of state. So then I add the number here. So this is very helpful if I try and pass in a string instead. It is going to throw an error on me and let me know that this is not the right type for the assigned piece of state. So as I keep going and I progress in here, now I've got a click count. So just like before, I'm going to add a button really fast. And then click me. In here, I will add an onClick method. So equals brackets. So we're going to be doing inline JavaScript here. So then I pass it a callback, and inside the callback, I'm going to say set click count. But then if I think about it, I might run into a race condition. Because if I say click count +1, I'm not sure what's going to execute first, right? So that's always a concern with JavaScript as we get into these race conditions. So instead of doing this within React, which can cause some issues and does cause some issues in the wild, in the real world. So there are 2 solutions we can go for with this. So first we could say const old click count is equal to click count. So kind of create a new immutable variable to hold the old value, and then we can say set click count to be old click count +1. So that's one way to do it, but that's kind of clunky. and would not be really considered like best form necessarily. So what we can actually do is use a callback inside of our setter method to get the previous state before that current set, like as we're going into that setter. So instead what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say set click count, and then I'm going to give it a callback, which is old click count here. And then the return value of this callback is what the new state value is going to be. So I get my old value as the input, and then I'm going to give it the return value of old click count plus 1. Now I've got a clicker, but we don't see anything with it. So if I were going to want to show something on screen, what I'm going to do is say right here, I can come up to above the button and say H6. And inside my H6, I'm going to do a little bit of string interpolations. This is a little fun thing for those of you that haven't seen it. It makes it safer to pass input, but in this case, it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of a handy thing for formatting. So I'm going to do my brackets again, and then I'm going to do the angle quotes. And then inside that, I can say money sign, brackets again, and I will say click count, clicks. And so what this says is the money sign and brackets denotes this is going to be a value inside this string, and then this rest is just interpreted as a string. So it allows us to inject a value into a string for formatting. So now I can see on my page here as I reload, I've got 0 clicks as I click each time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No latency. No weird bugs forming because we did go for that callback method for our state update. Thanks for checking out the tutorial on adding TypeScript to our Create React app. I hope you're enjoying the progression so far. The previous video is out on the channel, and then the next video that is planned is adding React Router with the new V6 version to our Create React app and talking about what some of the functionality we have with that is as well. So if that is up, it'll be off to my left. If not, check back soon and you'll see me soon.